This is BJJhood, tapping into Jiu Jitsu lives on and off the mats.
Hello, finally, we're here. BJJhood podcast is live after months and months of talking about it, and I don't even know, recording a lot of stuff and not working out. We're here, we're live. Hi, Shae.
Hi, Babi. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy we're finally doing this, apparently
know.
for real right now.
I know.
By the way,
The first take.
first take.
No.
That's the second take, actually. I'm not going to tell you about the first take we tried. But just a little thing. I'm Babi. Babi Dourado, if you're Brazilian, or Babi Dourado, if you're American.
Dorado.
Yeah, whatever. And this is Shae. I'm your host. This is Shae, your co-host.
Shae Stefan, you know, all the way American.
No Brazilian way to say it.
No accent over here.
True. We're here finally. We have been talking about doing this podcast for months. We actually recorded the same episode like 3 times. I think that's the 3rd time we're doing it. And I think it's finally going to work. I think it's a funny story for us, for our podcast, when we get to, I don't know, 100.
Podcast bloopers or something.
Yeah, because it's like the first one we recorded almost a year ago when we decided that we were going to do this. And then we didn't really do anything. Maybe a lot because of me.
Well, and the audio wasn't
push.
good with that one either. We had like the air conditioning happening. It was really high ceilings, you know.
The camera was also not that good.
Yeah,
like the imagery, the lighting.
Yeah.
Everything was kind of weird.
Figuring
I'm glad it
things
didn't
out.
work. Right? Yes. Yeah. I'm glad we had those trial runs so we could make it cute. Look, we have plants. We have pillows. We look cute. You know, it just gets better from here.
Yeah.
So, by the way, what we're doing here, right? Like, you were like, okay, you guys are going to be chit-chatting and not tell me what you're doing.
We're going to be another annoying girl podcast. We're just rambling.
Where we do our nails.
Yeah.
And we talk about life.
Yeah. No.
But no, look at my nails. Like,
We got BJJ nails.
Right? Not that I'm super proud of it. It doesn't look that good, but it is what it is.
Kind of.
It's what we have. Let's start this out telling you guys that if you're just listening us on your favorite podcast platform, make sure you also check out our YouTube channel. We're gonna have videos included in that. And if you're English speaker, some of the interviews are gonna be in Portuguese, so we're gonna have subtitles in English. And if you're Brazilian or if you speak Portuguese, I don't know where you're from, we're gonna have English subtitle. Actually, the other way. I always get this confused, man. Portuguese subtitles for English interviews, or this first episode here that we're gonna do totally in English. So it's primarily an English podcast, but because I know some of the people that we're gonna talk to, they don't speak English or they don't feel that comfortable speaking English. So we decided to make that in Portuguese and just have the subtitles so everybody can check that out. And for you to be able to watch that and always get notifications when we have new episodes coming out, just make sure you follow us on your favorite podcast platform and also on YouTube. We're there as BJJhood Podcast. And we're also on social media on Instagram at BJJhood Podcast. Make sure you follow us there. We're going to put some news, videos, the new interviews that are coming out. We're going to make a whole thing about it, right?
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, so make sure you give us the follow there. Don't forget. Let's start this out. I'm going to want to start every interview or every podcast that we have somebody different, having them talk about their jiu-jitsu lives. Oh, we didn't explain actually, so let me rewind.
Okay.
Our idea is to talk about jiu-jitsu. We do jiu-jitsu. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for like 9 years. How long have you been doing this?
Tricky question, but I've been over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
Yeah.
Don't ask her about color. Not yet. And then we love this. We love jiu-jitsu. We love the community. We love everything that jiu-jitsu gave to us. And we always wanted to have a podcast. I never knew what I wanted to talk about. I don't know why. But at some point, I realized that was jiu-jitsu. And I talked to Shae and we were like, let's talk to women that do jiu-jitsu. Let's try to bring like inspirational stories from women to start with. And to also lift the woman's work in jiu-jitsu. I think that's really important. I see a lot of like people talking about men and talking to men. So I wanted to bring a little more of the woman work in jiu-jitsu too. But it doesn't mean that we're not going to talk to men or that we're not going to have other people coming and talking to us. It's just the beginning.
Creating a platform predominantly trying to get, women feedback and perspective, and have that be part of the landscape of BJJ podcasts, as well as obviously having other guest speakers, right?
Yes. And it's amazing. We have all the girls that we follow, all the girls that we would love to talk about and understand a little more. A lot of the social media we can really like see about their story or what's behind of maybe all those medals or all that work that they put on the Instagram. So it's always good to have some time like to chat a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's it. So we're going to start today talking about our stories. And I'm going to start asking you, Shae.
Okay.
Tell me, what's your BJJ story? You told me you have been training for 10 years.
Yeah. So my story, I started in 2011. I've done martial arts a good amount of my life. And I just had gotten kind of like just starting my life in not starting my life in San Diego, starting a new portion of my life in San Diego. And had an opportunity that I could start doing some type of martial arts or doing something with my life other than, being 20 and working and going to the bars. So I decided I wanted to dive into it. And my boyfriend at the time, had said, well, why don't we try out the jiu-jitsu studio down the street? And I was like, what's jiu-jitsu? And then he was like, well, it's kind of like, wrestling. And I was like, okay, well, let's go check it out. And so I did one class, and it was very uncomfortable, I remember. The very first class, there was literally no women in the class, and I had high anxiety regardless because it was something new and you're surrounded by a bunch of men. But I just decided I liked it. It was kind of different. I've never done anything like that before. I actually wanted to wrestle when I was in high school, and they wouldn't let me because I was a girl.
Fun.
I know. So it was just like my opportunity to try something very, very different, and I stuck with it, and I enjoyed it, and it was something that me and my boyfriend, now husband, did at that time just to be fit and do fun stuff.
What was the thing that got you most like weirded out about it? Was it because it was so close, like people were so tight to each other? Was it like people sweating on you? Was it because like there was just men
all
there
of it?
And it's like
yeah, all of it. I mean, you have to get over like the fact that you are with a complete stranger and you are very close to them, in positions that you would never be
yes.
In with a stranger, let alone a man, if you are going to a studio that had predominantly men, right? So there was that aspect. I mean, everybody is so sweaty. It could literally drip into your mouth, your eyeball, or, it. So you have to deal with that. It was just like the sweat aspect of it. And then just doing something new, right? I mean, to have your body move and how jiu-jitsu makes you move your body, like typically you haven't done that since you were a child. You may be wrestling with your brother or something, right? And if you were a girl and had no brothers, typically you would never have done that. So yeah, it kind of brings you back to like this childhood, like playful mentality, and trying to get over that like adult prescribed way of how you're supposed to be like walking through life. So yeah, it was like a whole bunch of different things that was very interesting of how to get over. But I quickly did. Obviously, I signed up immediately and I just kept on going. And I had a lot of fun.
What do you think that got you hooked? Was that, you already talked about like being something different and being something that you wanted to do as like a child or maybe even a teenager.
Yeah.
But like, do you think that moment of being so playful, of being like so happy on the mats, or like doing something that you're not used to, is that what kept you there? Was the like mental challenge that jiu-jitsu bring us? Like, what were the things that you were like, okay, I like this, but I'm just gonna stick with this for life because of this?
I think that it was. You think that I would know this? I don't
Good
know
question.
yeah, that's a good question. I it's multifaceted, I think, of what made me stick to it and really liked it. I think predominantly, I think people kind of look at me funny when I say this, but I am very aggressive. So it was a way to get that type of energy out of my body. And I think that's really what stuck with me. And I was going against a bunch of men, so they were extremely aggressive. And so I was able to be as aggressive almost as I wanted to be and not be told like, oh no, you're a girl, or you shouldn't do that, or any of those type of, things that people typically would say to you. So it was a avenue for me to be as tomboy as I possibly wanted to be without anybody criticizing me. And I felt that throughout my entire life. So that's probably what drew me to it. I've always liked to wrestle with my brothers and my cousins. So again, it like brings that childhood portion out of me at least. And that's why I wanted to do it. For the fun aspect of it. And obviously I loved at that time working out, so it was just such a good workout.
It's like all the things together, right? It has a little bit of aspect of everything in your life. When it comes together, it's just like perfect.
It is. And then the more I did it, I think one of my biggest fears in life is to get raped. And so the more I did jiu-jitsu, the more I realized that it was really a sport for a smaller individual to protect themselves. And so I kind of grew this just love for it, of like I was teaching myself how to be self-sufficient, and I don't need to rely on somebody else to potentially like get me out of a bad like situation. Obviously it would help. Yes. I would rather have my husband by me, but if for whatever reason he wasn't, it definitely drew me in that way. In addition, and going to, throughout the years that I have stopped and started, it definitely gives you a self-confidence when you have children, you know what I mean? When you're, have your baby attached to you and you don't have your husband around or don't have any other male around, and you might be walking in the dark for whatever reason.
Don't walk in the dark.
Yeah.
Avoid that. If you can, just avoid it.
You have to go to the grocery store and it gets dark late, in those situations. But, and you just have your kid, what would you do if somebody tried to grab your kid or grab you or whatnot?
Most people would just freak out.
Yeah. So it gives you that confidence that, okay, I could at least put distance in between me and the person. Or if they're trying to take away a child, I at least know what I can do to potentially stop them versus just screaming and like slapping somebody. So yeah, I think that initially is kind of why I started.
That's awesome. And I just one more thing to add there. Just one more thing to add there. I would say it's not just only knowing what you can do, but it's also knowing that like you shouldn't put yourself in that type of situation, and that type of awareness, it's going to help you to not be in a position where you would need to defend yourself in most of the cases. We know that there are situations that you can't really do much. It's just going to happen, and that's when jiu-jitsu comes in, and it's like, okay, now it's a life-threatening situation. You got to do something. Like, you just react. But I think with jiu-jitsu too, you start being more aware of your surroundings, aware of the people around you, and you don't put yourself in positions and situations where you could be attacked, where you could get your child like in danger. You just avoid all those situations, right?
No, it definitely gives you that awareness. I'll get into that story in a second. Actually, there's a fun little story that one of my instructors put me through to show me. But I
don't think I heard that one before. So that's gonna be good.
So I went to white belt, and the little about me of why I've stopped and started. I decided to do a competition. I don't do well under pressure and that type of pressure of like social pressure, I guess you can say, of a lot of eyes being on me. I do very well under like critical pressure, life-threatening pressure. Actually, I do really well. But when it's like public, I have like social anxiety basically. So anyhow, I decided to go and enter a tournament, and within that tournament, I ended up breaking my knee.
Fun. First
Yeah,
tournament.
first
White
tournament,
belt.
yeah.
First fight.
I mean, it was within the first 20 seconds. Like, it
Yay.
was not even. White belt, yeah, only a couple stripes. They went to go pull guard, jump guard, actually. And she didn't jump guard
Properly.
It was too far away. And as she jumped guard, I was kind of lunging in. So my leg was forward. She came down on my leg, buckled left to right, and I literally broke everything. I mean, my bone, my meniscus, my ACL, like the whole thing was just shot.
How long did it take you to recover from that?
So I was on crutches for at least, I was probably like laid up, I would say, for at least a month and a half to 2 months, I think. And then I was on crutches for another like solid 2-3 months. So it took a while, like 6 months, I would say, before like I was walking without assistance. And then from there, I mean, it took, I don't know, a year
to like be fully yourself.
Well, not even that. I would say years after that to be fully
wow.
myself. Like, I wouldn't even be able to like sit on my like legs. You know what I mean? Because just like the dexterity of my joints wasn't there. You know, and you could feel it like stretching. But I did ended up going back once I was cleared by the doctor. I did go back. I got my blue belt. And then once I got my blue belt, I ended up getting pregnant. And so that took a moment in time for at least me. A lot of other people, they could probably roll back into the gym. But for me, just there was all kinds of different things going on with my just career changes and baby, and we had a house fire, and so it was a good amount of like adjusting a lot.
That's a lot.
And then I had my second kid, and then once I had my second kid, at that point in time, I just decided that like it's time to go back. Like I need to do something with myself. Like I'm just withering away at this point in motherhood, and I needed to exercise, and running up a hill was not going to be sufficient for me. So then I dove in and met Babi at that point in time. At
Best
the studio.
decision of her life.
Yes,
going
it was.
back.
It really was, and the rest is history. And I went through my stripes on my blue belt. I now have my purple belt. That was
Finally
my goal.
Oh my God.
I know. You don't.
And one more thing, she actually competed again. She competed again at the same competition where she broke her knee for the first time. That was the first one before, like after she went back, as a blue belt still. And she did World's Masters.
I did.
For the first time as a blue belt too.
I did.
Tell me about it. Like, I know what happened because I was there. But like, tell me more, how did you feel about it? Like, what made you decide to compete again, overcome all that fear? I was there, so I know you had a lot of fear and anxiety about the fight because of what you've been through, and that's completely normal. But you tell me, what were the feelings and like what was going on in your mind at that time?
So we did a local tournament that was like my warm up, but what really got me to do it again, which is, I'm crazy, I think my boss even found out that I was doing it. And I have been working at the same place forever, and she was like, what are you doing? Can you please not get hurt? But I decided to do it because there's actually two reasons. Well, I mean, myself was one reason of I just felt like I should, but you inspired me very much so, you and Kaio, because you compete so much, and I was like, oh, that's so cool and inspirational, and I kind of like looked up to you guys because you did that. And then Camilla, she was my big hype woman of like, you should do it. So between you and Camilla and Kaio, I think even Hoff, I think he definitely pushed me in that direction. So I ended up signing up for the local tournament, and I had crazy PTSD. Like, I mean, you were there. It was intense. Like, I wasn't even like in my own body. I don't even know what I did. I was like flopping on the ground like a fish. like a fish out of water. I don't know. It was wild. There was just so much adrenaline that was going through my body. I mean, people say that because of tournaments, but
it's normal.
I think it was like way more than what should have happened because of what happened previously. I had it in my mind, and I couldn't get over it, and I did not perform how I thought I would whatsoever. But it's okay. It was a growing experience for me. And I got through that, and then I think it was like 2 weeks later, I decided to enter Worlds.
Yes.
Again, like I'm just batshit crazy. I don't know, can I say that here? I was batshit crazy. Babi was like, "You sure? I mean, do you really want to do Worlds?" Like,
I mean, I think it's great. It's a good way for you. I think we all make at least for me. I don't know if everybody thinks like that, but like, I make a big deal about Worlds, and I'm like, it's the biggest tournament of the year. It's super important. Like, I really want to win that. But at the end of the day, it's just another tournament.
Yeah.
Maybe with more people on your bracket than you normally have on smaller tournaments. Like even on my age, your age, like we don't have that many people on the smaller tournaments. We're going to have maybe like 1, 2. Some tournaments you don't have anybody, you have to go down to adults. That would happen on your first one, right?
That was what happened with me. I had to go up like 2.
Up on weight.
Or I think it was age. 2, right? It was not age. I didn't go up in age. It was just kind of like open because they were younger than me. Okay. But it was, I think it was 2 classes I had to go up.
Yeah, like
they were heavy.
Girls. Yeah.
they were heavy, very strong. And so.
I think that's what happens a lot too. But I think we all make a big deal about Worlds, and it's not that big of a deal, but it is a good experience just being in a tournament that big.
It feels big.
So many people, so many lights, like a lot going on. Emotionally, it's a lot to take in. So I think it's really cool that you did that. I think you're gonna do again. I hope so. As a purple belt now, I know that life is crazy and there's a lot of things that go around and maybe stop you from like even training as much as you wanted or competing, but I think it's something that you liked from looking from outside.
Did it?
Yes. Even though you were like nervous, I'm really nervous when I'm competing too, but I think it's something that you like, and it's something different again. Yeah. That you can do. It's completely out of your life, like that go to work, that have your kids and everything, and then you take yourself out and put yourself in a tournament. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was, and Worlds was fun. Definitely was fun, and I did way better in Worlds. I was nervous at first, and then I kind of quickly got over it. I got really aggressive.
She won one fight. She won her first fight.
I did one. That was a success for me. And even in the second tournament, I got second.
Yes, she won one fight too, and lost just in the finals.
I was like flopping like a fish.
She did great. She's been a little dramatic. She did great.
I mean, do you remember me passing?
I mean, there was stuff to work on, of course, but you did good. Again, you had a lot of PTSD. You have all the anxiety going on. You're just coming back after I don't even know how many years.
Yeah, a while.
Yeah, it's just a lot. So it's normal, and I think you did great. You got second after all, so that was good.
Thank you. So yeah, that's my story. We could go deeper into it, but that is another podcast.
Yes, we can do another.
So what is your story, Babi?
Okay,
how did you start?
Okay, so I started in Brazil. For people that don't know me, I'm from Brazil, from the northeast of Brazil. So it's kind of hard because I was like born in one place. I grew up in a different place, and then I went to college in a different city, and then I went to another city for work. That's where I started Jiu Jitsu. So the name of the city is João Pessoa, and the state is Paraíba on the northeast. And I'm a journalist. And when I finished my college, like the place that I was working at, I wanted to be a TV reporter. I had a little bit of experience there, but they were like, we don't have any spots for you as a reporter here, but we do have in João Pessoa, and you should totally go. So I went, I tried for like a weekend. They liked me. I liked it there. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to move. And then I moved there. I didn't know anybody in that city. I just knew one person, and she was the person that was going to be my roommate. So I just decided I needed to change, and I was going to move. I just moved. I was like 24 at the time. And then one of the guys that was working with us, he was the cameraman. His name is Jiu. he was like, okay, I do jiu-jitsu. He was a brown belt at the time, and he was like, do you guys want to come? Me and my roommate. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, never heard of jiu-jitsu, have no idea what it is, never done martial arts in my life. Like, as a kid, I did a lot of volleyball and like some soccer, and I was really like into handball. But then when I went to college, like I couldn't do both because of the times of the practices and my classes. So I ended up stopping that. I used to drink a lot at the time. I used to like eat a lot. I didn't have a healthy lifestyle at all. It was just like down the hill,
Just having fun.
having way too much fun. I think more than it should be, but no, at the time was perfect. But then he was like, let's go. And I'm like, okay, didn't think a lot about it. I just went. I did the class. It was we called that corujão. It's like the owl's time for the classes. It started at 10 p.m.
That's wild.
and went to like midnight. And for me it was fine because I think it's a Brazilian culture. We go to bed really late, most of us. And I think I was working until like end of the afternoon, and as a TV reporter it's really hard sometimes. Like maybe my shift is from 1 to 6, but if something is going on in the city, like I would have to keep going until 8, 9, even longer than that.
Yeah.
So the time of the training was perfect because I could be done with work, I could eat something, and then go there.
Yeah.
Me and my roommate, we started training. Then we met a lot of people. These were like the first people that I met in the city and that I became friends with. So that helped a lot of like getting me to have a community to kind of land on, you know, in a different place. And then at some point, my friend broke her wrist training and she stopped training. And then I was like, I didn't have a car at the time. And I was like, how am I going to go to train? Because I used to go with her. We would carpool. And then another friend that was training at the time too, she was like, we can just get a bus and like just go. And I started doing that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. It's fine. I can do that. I can manage. And even though she wasn't doing it anymore, I kept going. Again, not expecting too much of it. It was just like an exercise that I was doing. It was a great place to go. There wasn't a lot of girls there. I think maybe like 2, 3, 1 blue belt, purple belt. That was the highest. 2 purple belts actually. And then a couple of other girls that would come and go, not really consistent. But then I kept training. I ended up meeting Kyle, that's now my husband. We were friends for a long time before we even like got into a relationship. But we met in jiu-jitsu. He was a black belt, not my professor. He used to teach the morning classes. But then we met from like competitions and stuff like that. And then at some point too, I started competing. Again, I didn't know what to expect or like what I wanted to do. But then I decided to start competing. And then I went for that. And it was fun. It's funny thinking about it right now because nowadays if I'm going to a competition, I do a diet. I make sure I'm eating really healthy. I don't drink. I prepare. I'm an athlete right now. Before, I think I would just like drink the night before. I didn't even care. I was like, my weight class at that time was super heavy. Just so you can have an idea. So it's like, I didn't care at all. I didn't understand at all like what would be the differences. But then I got my blue belt. I started dating Kyle, and at some point it became more present in my life, especially because he was there too. It was a thing that we would do together. And then 2018 we decided to move to the United States. We were supposed to stay here for like 6 months, and then 6 months turned into 5 years, almost 6 now. We changed our minds after we got here, and we realized how big jiu-jitsu was and all the opportunities that we would have. So I think I could say that jiu-jitsu changed my life in every way possible. Like it changed my love life because I met my husband in jiu-jitsu. It changed the place that I lived at because I moved to the United States, and I never thought about the possibility of moving and living here. If it wasn't because of jiu-jitsu, I wouldn't be living here nowadays. And it also changed me as a person too, because now I think I take better care of myself. of my body, of my mind. um, a lot of people say that, but it's true. Like, jiu-jitsu helps a lot on your mind. Like, even if you don't have big problems, but just like the stress of the day, when you get on the mats, you don't think about anything else. Like, you just want to choke. You just want to armbar that person. Like, you just want to do good. You don't have time to think about all your problems outside there.
It's an escape.
Yeah, so I think it just like changed everything for me. And going from somebody that would eat everything and like drink every day pretty much, to somebody that drinks sometimes nowadays. Like, I don't feel that it's necessary anymore.
Jesus drank wine.
Yeah,
So.
sometimes it's good. It's important. I like it. But I can't drink the way I drank before.
And I just don't feel good. Like, once you kind of stop, it just kind of like, like, tomorrow I'm not going to feel my best, and this is what I want to do. And so you kind of have to calculate that.
Yes, and after you become a master, after 30, you're like, it's going to take now 2-3 days for me to recover from a hangover. Like, I don't want to do that to myself. So, recently I just got my brown belt in June. So that's scary. It's a little scary to see.
It is changing, like, belts for sure.
Yes.
Like, you feel like almost like there's this different expectation of what you should know and shouldn't know. I mean,
yes,
with Master Nelson, he definitely puts you on the spot depending on your belt. So.
Yes, true. And it's like, I think like when I got my purple belt, it was amazing. It helped a lot to develop my game. I think that's when, it's funny to say that because I don't want to sound cocky, but it's like true. My game got so much better. Like, and I'm comparing myself to myself. Me as a blue belt and me as a purple belt, I was a completely different person. And I got my purple belt when, it was like during COVID. It was like after a tournament that I didn't even win. And then sometimes you're like, I don't know if I deserve this, like getting my purple belt. I didn't even win the tournament. Like, why am I getting this right now? But as like my professors say, it's like, at the right time, it doesn't really matter. Of course, we always want to win, and I'm sure they want us to win, but it's like, it was time. And sometimes that's what you need, and I think that's what I needed at the time. It's like, oh shit, now I'm purple belt. I better be good.
Yeah.
Like, I better get better.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get beat up by blue belts. I don't want to get beat up by white belts. I think when you're like a blue belt, you're just like, okay, I'm not going to get beat up by the white belts, but everybody else can kind of beat up on me. And I think as you move up, you start to like not wanting that. And I'm not saying that that's right, but that's just what came to my mind. I don't want that to happen, so I better.
Yeah, she would get really upset if I like got anything on her. She would.
How now?
But your game has like improved. It's crazy to see from like when I first started rolling with you, and I think you had just gotten your purple belt around that time, and then to you transitioning out of purple belt, like even the last, let's say, like year, like it's been such a like drastic change in your game of how you maneuver yourself, and like it's I don't think my change has quite happened yet, so like it's almost feels like mountains between us right now of your game to my game. It's kind of interesting, but it's like fun to see, you know, from the outside how you've evolved.
Yeah, it's good because and I think that's good too, because a lot of people come and tell me, and like even when I'm not doing good as I think I was doing in a training, they would come and be like, oh my god, like you're doing so much better. And I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, did you just watch this? And they're like, come on, like I'm comparing yourself to yourself, not to the other person. And I think that's one of the most important things too in jiu-jitsu. It's at least I do this sometimes. I tend to compare myself to other people, other brown belts, and I'm like, I'm not on that level, so I don't know if I deserve to be a brown belt. But we shouldn't do this. I don't think in anything on our lives. It's like, compare yourself to yourself. It's your own journey. It changes for everybody. You don't know what the other person goes through. What is her life, or like what is she doing? So don't compare yourself. See if you're improving, getting better. And I think that's been happening to me. And also like putting myself on a spot of teaching people. Now we started like a women's class in our school, and I'm helping with teaching that. It's amazing to also be part of somebody else's journey on I'm the one that's like telling them what to do and teaching them the positions. So when I think about the Babi that started Jiu-Jitsu and didn't have any plans about it, didn't even know what Jiu-Jitsu was and like who I am today and like where I'm getting with my Jiu-Jitsu, I think it's amazing to see all those changes and and the expectations too of like what's to come within the next year. So it's exciting.
Well, and you were saying too, like prior to, you're like, there's no way that I could like ever teach, right? And then there was like a whole growth pattern through that of like, now you're fully not only just teaching the women's class, you're teaching like the fundamentals class, you know?
Yes.
Across like men and women. So that's like pretty spectacular.
Yes. I always thought, and that's something that I stopped saying after the last couple months when I started kind of helping and teaching more the classes, was like, I'm never gonna teach anybody. Like, I have no patience. I don't want to be explaining to you the same thing 20 times. Like, if I tell you once and you don't get it, I'm like, I'm out. I don't want to keep like telling you anything. I would get mad. But that's something else that Jiu-Jitsu helped me. It's like somebody had to be patient with you when you were a white belt.
Yeah.
To teach you all the moves. Like, do you think a black belt like to be on you just like, Jesus Christ, I told you, put your hand here, and then you can't because you don't know what's going on. Yeah. Like, somebody had the patience to me, like, why wouldn't I have to somebody else? Like, it's almost like it's my job, my duty to
give it back.
To pass that on, to give it back. So I think it helped me grow a lot as a person on understanding that each person have their own times, and like sometimes some people are gonna get the information, the position really fast. For some people, you're gonna have to take more time and explain maybe in a different way, and that's gonna help them to understand. So it helped a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we've been talking for a while.
That's my story. That's your story. We're here. We're going to be interviewing all kinds of different people from the Jiu-Jitsu world. We're really excited about it. Definitely highlighting the women that we interact with and giving them the platform to be present within the sport. And hopefully we can dabble into other kind of fun stuff down the road.
That's the goal.
But join us for more discussions.
Yeah, join us on our journey here, starting this podcast. And what I was going to say too, it's like if you guys have anything that you want us to talk about, could be something that just me and Shae are going to talk about, but it could always be some like a subject that you would love to have somebody that's a specialist on that to talk about. Just let us know. We have our email, bjjhoodpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on social media at bjjhoodpodcast on Instagram too. So make sure you just send your messages. We would love to hear back from you guys. Any like feedbacks, the things that you like, that you don't like, things you would love to hear from us, people that you want us to talk to. Like Shae said, we already have some people that we interviewed, some people that are sad to be interviewed. I think it's going to be really cool. We're really excited.
Yeah, super excited.
Awesome. So don't forget, follow us on social media, Instagram at BJJhood Podcast, on YouTube at BJJhood Podcast 2. That's where we're going to have the videos, the interviews with subtitles in English or Portuguese, depending on the interview, of course. And podcast platform. Don't forget to follow us there too, so you guys are going to get all the information when the new episodes are coming out. I will see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Would you like to share your story? Email us at bjjhoodpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at BJJhoodPodcast.